Okay, so picture this, right? Mountains of food waste. And instead of a problem, you see, like, potential.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about today, black soldier fly farming,
exactly.
where this, like, unassuming insect is turning waste into valuable stuff. We're doing a deep dive today.
We are.
From massive facilities to little farms, all powered by this fly.
It's fascinating, how this tiny creature is making such a global impact. We're seeing it everywhere, from a huge facility in Shanghai processing 50 tons of waste every day using like 500 million black soldier flies.
50 tons daily.
Yeah.
That's a hard number to even picture.
It is.
But before we get into those specifics, let's break it down. How does this, I've heard them called waste-eating heroes.
Yeah.
How do they actually do their magic?
It's the larvae, the black soldier fly larvae.
Okay.
These little guys can eat like twice their body weight in organic waste every single day,
Wow.
and they're not picky.
So it's like composting, but on super speed. Right?
Yeah, think about it. In just a week, a small amount of fly eggs can turn tons of waste into usable material.
Really? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's not only possible, it's happening right now.
Wow.
And the efficiency of this process is what's so impressive, this natural biological process. And what's exciting is the technology around it is evolving so rapidly.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. We're talking robotic arms, vibrating screens to separate the larvae, climate-controlled rooms for breeding them, even AI.
Mm-hmm.
This Shanghai facility sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does, but it's not science fiction. For example, at Shanghai Jiao Tong University,
Okay.
they're using AI and smart sensors not just to monitor, but to optimize how these flies grow and how efficiently they convert the waste. They're looking at larval behavior to adjust feeding schedules, the lighting, even the airflow in real time. That's how precise we're getting.
So AI for insect farming, that's pretty wild. But what does this mean for, like people like you and me, the average person?
Well, it's not just about reducing waste. It's about creating a circular economy. We're taking something that we would just throw away and turning it into valuable products, creating a system where very little is actually wasted.
Okay, so it's not just like a feel-good environmental story. There's real economics here.
Absolutely. For farmers, think about like livestock feed costs.
Oh.
Using black soldier fly meal can drastically reduce those costs.
Wow.
Not only that, the high protein meal can be sold, and the leftover, the larval waste, that's an excellent fertilizer, organic fertilizer.
I read about a farmer in Anhui, China, who increased his income by over 10,000 yuan. That's about $450 US, just by switching to this.
It's significant.
But what about the environment? We hear about reducing landfill waste, but what does that actually look like with this?
Studies have shown that you can divert up to 90% of organic waste from landfills using this.
90%.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's massive. And then you have to think about the greenhouse gas emissions, right?
Right.
From decomposition in those landfills, this offers a way to significantly reduce those emissions. On top of that, less reliance on fish meal, which is a major contributor to overfishing.
So reduced waste, lower emissions, even protecting the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
It does sound win-win, but, some people are probably listening thinking, wait a minute, millions of flies.
Yeah.
Isn't there going to be a terrible smell?
That's a valid concern. Odor is definitely something that has to be managed carefully. The good news is there are solutions, and they start with location. Facilities are placed away from residential areas, and the systems are closed loop, designed to contain any potential smells.
Like that company in Nanjing you mentioned, using, what are they called, EM bacteria for pre-treating the waste? What are EM bacteria, and how does that help with the smell?
EM stands for effective microorganisms. It's a mix of beneficial bacteria and fungi that basically speed up the composting process and stop the growth of the microbes that cause odor. By pre-treating the waste with this, you can effectively control, even eliminate the unpleasant smells.
So strategic placement, closed systems, embacteria.ai.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like they're thinking about the problems and tackling them head on.
Yeah.
But I imagine regulations are crucial here to make sure it's all sustainable and responsible, right?
Absolutely. We don't want swarms of black soldier flies escaping, becoming an invasive species.
No.
Biosecurity is key, and that means things like physical barriers, netting, even light traps to stop the flies from escaping. And of course, monitoring is critical. Responsible practices and regulations have to go hand in hand to ensure this technology benefits everyone and doesn't create any unintended consequences.
So we've talked about the what in the hell of black soldier fly farming, but I want to get to the where is this going?
Oh, yeah.
What's next for this little bug with big potential?
Well, that's where it gets even more interesting. The research isn't just about optimizing feed and fertilizer production. We're talking about biofuel production, extracting keton for bioplastics, even potential applications in pharmaceuticals.
Wow. Now that's thinking outside the box or maybe like outside the compost bin.
Right.
I'm really intrigued by those integrated systems like the tofu residue black soldier flyfish fertilizer model they're doing in Wee County.
Yeah.
It sounds like the ultimate closed loop.
It's an incredibly innovative model, starting with tofu residue, feeding it to the flies, using the larvae to feed fish, and then the fish waste and leftover larval frass that becomes fertilizer. A perfect example of the circular economy in action.
Almost too perfect.
Mm.
But with all this innovation, are governments and investors getting on board with this idea of an insect-powered future?
It's not just an idea anymore, it's becoming a reality. China, for instance, has officially included black soldier flies in its national feed catalog. That's huge. They're also investing in large-scale processing facilities, showing a real commitment to scaling up this industry. And we're seeing similar interest and investment in other parts of the world as well.
It's exciting to see that kind of momentum. Sounds like this black soldier fly might be more than just a waste-eating hero. It could be a key to a more sustainable future for all of us.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? It shows you the power of these innovative solutions.
It does.
You know, it's not just about managing waste, it's about tackling those big challenges that we face when it comes to things like food security and environmental sustainability.
You know, it's funny you should mention food security because I was reading a report from the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, and they actually highlight the incredible growth of this global black soldier fly industry.
Yeah.
They even call it a core force
Wow.
in replacing traditional animal protein feed, tackling that organic waste pollution we were talking about, and driving this circular economy.
Spot on. And it goes beyond just producing more food, right? It's about producing it more sustainably.
Mm-hmm.
You think about traditional animal feed production, particularly fish meal.
Right.
It puts so much pressure on our oceans. But black soldier flies, they offer a real alternative.
They do.
That's less resource intensive and helps us reduce our reliance on overfishing.
And not to mention all that food waste we generate globally.
Right?
Black soldier flies can actually help us turn that waste into something valuable instead of just chucking it in a landfill.
It's a perfect example of biomimicry, you know, looking to nature for solutions to these problems that we've created.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is we're not just replicating what nature does, we're leveraging technology to enhance those natural processes.
We're taking this ancient process of decomposition and we're giving it a technological boost.
We are.
But with all this talk of, you know, industrial scale farming and innovation, are there any concerns, you know, about potential downsides to this?
It's a really important question. You know, as with any emerging technology, we need to be mindful of the potential for any unintended consequences.
Right.
And one concern that comes up is the risk of black soldier flies becoming invasive species.
Oh, right.
You know, if they escape from these farms and establish themselves in new ecosystems.
Yeah, especially since they're not native to every part of the world.
Exactly.
What kind of safeguards are in place to prevent that from happening?
Biosecurity is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Farms need to have robust systems in place to prevent escapes. So things like physical barriers, netting, even light traps.
Okay.
And of course, there needs to be careful monitoring of surrounding areas to detect any potential infestations quickly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about like disease transmission?
Oh, yeah.
Could black soldier flies become like vectors for pathogens that could affect, you know, us, livestock, or other wildlife?
It's valid, and it's one that researchers are actively investigating. But so far, there's no evidence that that suggests they pose a significant risk of disease transmission.
Okay.
But as with any animal farming operation, strict hygiene and biosecurity protocols are essential to minimize that risk.
Right. So it's all about managing those risks responsibly and proactively.
Right.
But even with those potential risks,
Right.
it seems like the potential benefits are pretty remarkable.
They are. And it makes you wonder what other What other surprising solutions might nature hold for these problems that we're facing? If we just take the time to look closely.
I love that thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential risks, but let's shift back to the positive side.
Okay. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about these large scale operations, but what about the role of small scale producers in this?
Yeah.
Could this be something that individuals can participate in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. While large-scale facilities are essential for meeting the growing demand for these products, small farms and even individual households can play a crucial role in promoting this technology and closing the loop on their own waste.
I've seen those DIY black soldier fly composters popping up online.
Yeah.
It seems like a great way for people to kind of experience the benefits firsthand and contribute to a more sustainable lifestyle.
Exactly, and it's a fantastic way to educate people about the value of insects in our ecosystems.
Yeah.
When people see for themselves how quickly these flies can transform their kitchen scraps into this nutrient-rich compost, it really changes their perspective.
It's like a gateway bug to a whole new way of thinking about waste and resource management.
Yeah.
But let's be real. Not everyone is going to be comfortable with a bin full of bugs in their backyard, no matter how beneficial they are.
Right.
So how do we overcome that ick factor that some people might have?
It's a great point. It's not just about convincing people to eat insects directly. It's about highlighting the benefits of using black soldier fly meal in animal feed and other products.
Right.
Ultimately, it's about making our food systems more sustainable, regardless of whether we're personally comfortable eating, crickets or mealworms.
So how do we get people on board with this idea?
Right.
Is it just education, or is there a more strategic approach?
Education is a key part of it, but we also need to focus on showcasing the tangible benefits of black soldier fly products, for example, highlighting the fact that chickens fed on black soldier fly meal, they produce eggs that are higher in omega-3 fatty acids.
Okay.
Or that using black soldier fly fertilizer can lead to healthier and more productive crops.
So it's about appealing to people's self-interest and showing them how this can directly benefit their lives.
Yeah.
But even if we overcome the ick factor, there's still the issue of competition.
Yeah.
Black soldier fly farming is entering a market dominated by these established players in the feed and fertilizer industries.
Yeah.
How can it compete with those giants?
That's another important challenge. To succeed, this industry needs to demonstrate its economic and environmental advantages convincingly.
Right.
And that requires continued innovation, research, and development. We need to find ways to optimize production, reduce costs, and develop new applications that make black soldier flies a truly compelling alternative.
So it sounds like it's going to take like a multi-pronged approach, technological advancements, regulatory frameworks, public awareness campaigns, economic incentives.
You've hit the nail on the head. This isn't something that any one entity can solve on its own. It requires collaboration between scientists, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and consumers.
It's like a global movement towards a more insect-powered future.
Yeah.
But even with all this talk about industry and innovation, I keep coming back to the idea of those small-scale producers.
Right.
It's inspiring to think that individuals can be a part of this, even in a small way.
It's incredibly empowering, and it highlights the fact that sustainability isn't just about these grand sweeping solutions.
Yeah.
It's also about individual actions and community level initiatives.
It's about empowering people to take control of their own waste streams and contribute to a more circular economy, one black soldier fly at a time.
Exactly.
But with all this talk about black soldier flies being the solution to so many problems, it almost sounds like too good to be true.
Right.
Are there any potential downsides or challenges that we haven't discussed yet?
You're right to be cautious. While black soldier fly farming has enormous potential, it's important to remember it's still a relatively new industry.
Yeah.
There are challenges to overcome and questions to address. For example, standardization is a big one.
Okay.
Right now, there's a lack of consistency in terms of farming practices, product quality, and safety regulations.
So there needs to be like a more unified approach to make sure the industry can grow in a sustainable and responsible way.
Yes.
What are some other hurdles that need to be cleared?
One challenge is the availability of high quality feedstock for the flies. They need a consistent supply of organic waste to thrive.
Right.
And that can be a logistical challenge in some areas.
Okay.
Another issue is the need for more efficient and cost effective processing methods.
Yeah.
Extracting the protein and other valuable components from the larva can be a complex and expensive process.
So it sounds like there's still a lot of work to do to optimize this technology and make it truly scalable.
Absolutely, but the good news is that there's a lot of research and innovation happening in this field.
Yeah.
And as the industry grows, we can expect to see even more breakthroughs that address these challenges.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Where do you see black soldier fly farming fitting into the future of food and agriculture?
I believe it has the potential to be a transformative force in our food systems.
Wow.
It offers a sustainable and an efficient way to address some of the biggest challenges that we face. You know, food waste, resource depletion, environmental degradation. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a powerful tool that we can use to create a more resilient and equitable food future.
I'm really struck by this idea that this tiny insect could play such a significant role in shaping our world.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. We've covered so much in this deep dive. You know, the science, the economics, the environmental benefits, even those potential risks and challenges. But before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on one more thing.
Sure. Yeah. What's on your mind?
Well, we've talked a lot about the positives.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to think about the potential downsides as well, and specifically, ethical considerations.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. As with any new technology, we need to carefully consider those implications. What are some of the specific concerns you're thinking about?
Well, for me, it's about the insects themselves.
Okay.
We're talking about farming millions, even billions of black soldier flies.
Yeah.
Do we have a responsibility to make sure they're being treated humanely?
That's a question that's starting to get a lot more attention in the industry. Yeah.
While insects may not experience pain and suffering in the same way as mammals do,
right?
It's still important to consider their welfare. There's a lot of research going on right now into understanding insect sentience and developing guidelines for ethical farming practices.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah. Utilizing
these insects, but also making sure we're not exploiting them.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the insects themselves.
Yeah.
We also need to think about the broader ecological impact of large-scale insect farming, for example. What happens to the native insect populations when we introduce millions of black soldier flies into an ecosystem?
That's a great point.
We need to be sure that we're not disrupting the natural balance by creating these artificial insect populations.
So it's about taking a holistic approach.
It is.
And really considering all the consequences, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And it requires that ongoing monitoring.
And research to make sure we're not doing more harm than good.
Exactly.
So it's complex.
It is.
There's no easy answers, but it sounds like the industry is at least starting to think about these ethical questions.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's a really positive sign.
Yeah.
The fact that we're having these conversations means that we're taking these ethical implications seriously.
Yeah.
It's not just about blindly embracing a new technology. It's about doing so responsibly and thoughtfully.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
It's reassuring to know that there is, that focus on the ethical side of things alongside all this technological innovation.
Absolutely. And it's something that we as consumers need to be aware of and demand from the companies that are producing these products.
So it's a shared responsibility.
It is.
Consumers, producers, researchers all need to be part of the conversation.
Exactly. And that dialogue is essential to ensure that this develops in a way that benefits both people and the planet.
Well said. It's been fascinating exploring this world of black soldier fly farming.
Yeah.
from, revolutionizing waste management to creating a more sustainable food system, this tiny insect has a lot to offer.
It really is a remarkable story of innovation and sustainability.
It is.
And it's just one example of the incredible potential that nature holds for solving these challenges that we face.
It really does make you wonder what other surprising solutions are out there just waiting to be discovered.
It does. It's an invitation to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I think the one thing that really stands out to me is the power of innovative thinking.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that this humble fly
Right.
could hold the key to a more sustainable future?
It's amazing.
It's a reminder that sometimes the answers to our biggest problems can come from the most unexpected places.
It is. It's a testament to the ingenuity of nature and the power of human curiosity to unlock its secrets.
So what's the one final thought you want to leave our listeners with today?
I would encourage everyone to embrace that power of curiosity.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to explore new ideas, to ask those tough questions, and to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
The future of our planet depends on our ability to think creatively and find innovative solutions. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to discover the next big solution, inspired by something as small and unassuming as the black soldier fly.
I love that challenge. On that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of black soldier fly farming.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep wondering.
Absolutely. And keep an open mind. The future is full of possibilities.